water while you're talking, as I feel like my gills are drying up. Hello, everybody. You're smart. I went to do that. I have a tall glass, but that didn't do. I break in 2 seconds. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Yes, we're back. The Obi Wan Kenobi Aftershow, your hit show here on JLJ Media. I'm one of your hosts and moderator, James Lott Jr. And of course, back with me talking about this wonderful show, but this time talking about the documentary, we have John Dunphy and Frank Moran. Hello, gentlemen.
Woo! Hello. Yeah.
Sorry, we're late a little bit, everybody. We had dealing with life, kids, dealing with life.
But it was all me, guys. It was all me. The force was not strong with me.
It wasn't. Sorry for the lateness. Okay, sorry for the lateness. But we are here. We'll talk about. I feel like Julie Chen right now. A Jedi's Return. I went blank for a second. I'm like, what the hell was this? It's a 1 hour documentary that aired. Shit. Sorry, my fan is just like blowing everything away. Aired and airs on Disney Plus. Belated Happy Disney Day, you guys. It was Disney Day yesterday.
Did you guys do something special? Did you find a little treat? Oh, I mean, it was great. I got myself a little Mickey tattoo. I'll show you later, James.
I can't wait. I want to see where you got it. I want to see where you got it.
I don't get to see.
It's at a place exclusively for James.
See, there you go.
All right. Fair enough.
Okay, I got it. You're in love with Taylor, so leave us alone.
I am in love with Taylor.
So we are here, and we're going to talk about it. It's an hour long, or just a little less than an hour long, and I have some thoughts on it. I'm sure these guys do too. It was also, I just want to mention because it was also Happy Star Trek Day yesterday, also. So I don't know if anybody did anything for that. Prosper. And today was the last day of Days of Our Lives on network television. After 57 years, the show now moved to Peacock.
Did you watch it, James, live?
No, watch tonight. I was going to watch it live, but I was having lunch with Flobito, my sister, who's in chat.
There you go.
Yeah, we were at Shakey's Pizza, me and Flobito.
Those Mojo potatoes or whatever?
Yes. And the chicken is really good. The fried chicken. It's a secret. Go over to Shakey's, folks. You won't be disappointed. So he never been before. So we took Flobito in there. Hello, Kirsten. Hello, my sisters in the chat. Hello, you guys. We took him over there in Mid-City. We had a good time. It was hot AF in Los Angeles. Hurricane K is making her way, I guess, here. I don't know what's going on. Or Frank, what's going on.
That's true. It's windy. And it was a little rain. I think we're going to get something like in the next half hour. It'd be nice little rain will come back.
I hope so, folks. I hope so. Okay, I'm just putting super chats are enabled, so if you feel so kind, do that. No, things are in the chat. Okay, folks. Thanks for hitting the like button. We love that. I just lost 2 people. I don't know where you guys went. You guys don't like anymore, I guess. Hi, Tracy Stevens, Kirsten, Xandra, everybody in there. Okay. So overall, I'm gonna do my first little overall impression of the documentary. I felt like the documentary was very earnest. I felt like they really wanted to do a good job on the series. I felt like in the documentary, they knew the gravity of the situation, and they really wanted to do really well. I don't think they achieved that in the series, but I feel like they went into it really wanting to do something really good. There are parts of it that I really enjoy seeing some behind the scenes stuff. I always love that. When they were doing the aliens, the creatures, I loved all that stuff. Showing how they imposed the scene looks so real. Like I love that stuff. Love that stuff. Talking to everybody, of course, and talking to them, that was nice. It was a good documentary in terms of just kind of whatever, but I just felt like when they were saying, we're going to really make this character this character, I feel like they didn't achieve that in the series. So it's kind of like, I wish you guys did achieve that in the series. Also, another thing I walked away with, which I'll talk about more too, Star Wars really is huge. Like every generation has their Star Wars. I have the first trilogy. I'm assuming Frank's kind of the first trilogy also. Even though he's younger than I am. They claim he's younger than I am. But I think the first trilogy is your time too, right?
Yeah.
And then for John, it's the second trilogy. The third trilogy, I don't know yet. But the first two trilogies were huge in our lives. And so hearing the actors get jobs in this universe, you can tell the weight of it was not lost on them. No matter what role they were taking. And I was like, if I got on Star Wars, I'd be crying a big old baby if I got a job. I would be. Because there are very few franchises, I think, Star Wars, Star Trek, of course, maybe Indiana Jones, maybe, I guess. I'm trying to think of something that's really big. Well, I guess Marvel, DC, all that stuff, where you get in on it. It's like, it's internationally known. You're in a series that's like you're in. So I felt that actually as they were talking. I felt that they were really showcasing that. So those are the things overall that I got from it. It was an enjoyable documentary. It's fine. But I feel like it showed me more of what they didn't accomplish in the series. So who wants to go first?
I will say to what you're thinking, James, I got to imagine it's for any of the original trilogy actors, there's nothing to compare it to. So everything was just like, this is amazing. And then I think the challenge after that was like, no, I'm more than just this character. I can also do a bunch of other stuff too. And some of the actors, for better, for worse, were more successful and less successful and kind of getting away from that. But then I feel like the second trilogy, the rough part for them was being constantly compared to the original trilogy. And so no matter what happened, it's like, they were just actors in this role doing the best that they could. Yet it felt like so much when it wasn't the Star Wars that they expected or they wanted, that it just kind of soured, public opinion soured against them. But now that they've had those fans, as you were saying, that it was really made for, have now grown older. They're now in their early adulthood or late adulthood, and really showing their love for that. It's now these actors are really finally to get that appreciation for their work in the second trilogy.
Yeah,
I agree with that, Frank. I like that. John Dunphy.
It's funny because I feel like, I was born in 1989. So I was born after the original trilogy, but before the prequels. And the first Star Wars that I knew was from the original trilogy. But I think I was 12, 13 years old when the prequels were coming out. So, I feel like I really identify with both trilogies in a way. And I was super excited for this series, obviously, like so many other Star Wars fans, when we found out there was going to be an Obi Wan Kenobi show. And almost like thinking about the possibilities of it made me like emotional. Thinking about like seeing Obi Wan Kenobi, Darth Vader, seeing them in live action on the screen, and a part of their story being filled in that we had never seen before. But I agree with you, James, is that watching this documentary, I enjoyed the Obi Wan Kenobi series. I did the season that we had, but the emotion that I think I expected to feel from watching the show itself, I didn't feel that. I felt it watching this documentary, though, and hearing all of the actors, describe how important, Star Wars was to them, and not just like people like Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen, getting to reprise these roles that they were in, that now they're finally being embraced, for playing. But even some of the newer actors that, people that got to play, Haja and Tala and Roken, like just hearing their experience, like hearing O'Shea Jackson Jr. talk about how important Star Wars was to him and his family growing up. Like the emotion that I expected to get from watching the series itself, I didn't feel until the documentary. And I thought the documentary was beautiful. So I really enjoyed this. And that's, I guess, basically my overall thoughts.
Surprised or not surprised, guys, that Ice Cube was such a huge Star Wars fan?
I guess initially surprised just because of his persona, but thinking, no, he's our time period. He's our age, my age. So, I mean, I'm thinking, well, then of course the Star Wars does cross everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, but I was surprised in terms of just, it's kind of just a shock. You're thinking, I'm picturing Ice Cube take his kids to the movies. But I mean, but that's what, I mean, a persona is one thing. Obviously, in real. Because actually, he wasn't raised poor. Okay, that's a whole myth and everything. But he was playing this hard ass gangster when he first came out. But he's doing family films now. So I guess in a way, I mean, yeah, his kids can grow up poor. They grew up with money because they grew up with Ice Cube. So it was just kind of shocking that he was into the music part, which I was like, oh, he's into the John Williams score and Duel of the Fates. He was playing his wedding. He was downright giddy. I thought that's
yeah.
John, honestly, tell me, what are the odds are that you would play Duel of the Fates at your wedding?
Pretty high, actually.
Better than 80%.
Yeah.
Wow,
nice. I'm gonna have to get really lucky with whoever I marry.
Well, I mean, for me, it's the Imperial March, of course, when I come down the aisle. So
excellent.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not getting married, but if I ever did, which I don't want to, but if I ever did, the Imperial March is playing. I'm entering the room. So
could you imagine walking down the aisle to the Imperial March dressed as Darth Vader to the altar as you're about to get married?
Or dressed from the neck down as Darth Vader. Like this, have the hat up and have the cape and everything.
Okay.
I'll get married now. I'll get married in a Darth Vader suit, so to speak. I mean, all the way except cover my head.
All right, but James, the big thing is if you're dressing like that, who do you want your betrothed to dress as? Obi-Wan?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I mean, I feel like it's
a great
weird
question. Because you can't do Luke. That's incest.
And you can't do Leia because that's weird.
That's weird.
Chewbacca? That's weird.
Han Solo.
That's
fine.
That's TV. Darth Maul.
Yeah.
No.
Emperor Palpatine.
That's great.
See, Frank,
that's great.
Endless. It's endless, Frank. It's endless. Or we could be dueling Darth Vaders.
True. Yeah, that's right. Yoda, depending on the person's stature.
I got everybody short. You're Yoda, okay? Exactly. That's hilarious, Frank. I'll have to get back to everybody on that one. Everybody's laughing at you. I'll get back to you on that one. That's a good question. I just know that I'm marching down the aisle. I don't know what's going on there, but I know I'm going down the aisle. But you're right. There was so much more emotion in this. One of the things I really enjoyed, which was the heart of the whole thing, was Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor. First seeing how young they were. They were so young in these things. So young.
Ewan McGregor's audition tape, watching that. Oh, my God.
A baby.
Yeah.
A baby. And he wasn't
him going around with George Lucas and asking a stupid question where it's like, do we really go underwater?
I know oh my God, that's hilarious.
Oh yeah.
That's hilarious.
Oh man. Oh God, when he was talking about the part where he got to finally pick his lightsaber.
Yes.
Oh.
I know it hit me. God. I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah. It goes back to how important these movies are to us in the culture, just in the common culture. Everyone knows what a lightsaber is. You may not remember every Star Wars thing that happened in Star Wars, but you know what a lightsaber is. I mean, everybody knows what that is. And that's a big thing to be able to wield one in a Star Wars series or film. That's the ultimate. That is the ultimate.
Oh, I was surprised because I would have thought that would have been locked in for him because you're using basically what Alec Guinness would have used. But then when he goes back in the present day and he's able to look at the lightsabers and they show him the differences between, what he had in the prequel trilogy, what Alec Guinness uses in A New Hope, and then where this lightsaber for this series will kind of slide in between. I was like, oh, okay, there are differences because I would have thought it would have just been a straight up, you're just using Obi-Wan's.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of cool. They started off with Sir Alec Guinness.
Yes.
And how he didn't know him from Adam or whatever. He was a young indie actor. And they said when he got the part, he started watching him as a younger man. I thought that was an interesting choice of acting, going, I want to watch his younger films and see how he moved as a young man. I thought that's actually very clever.
Well, and it's clever, and it's also interesting to me because the documentary started off with Alec Guinness talking about how he had never played a role in a sci-fi movie. So you're talking about Ewan McGregor just kind of picking up, because Alec Guinness was the first Obi-Wan and this legendary, iconic figure in Star Wars. So like yeah, of course you're going to study Alec Guinness, not as Obi-Wan, just a younger Alec Guinness, you know. And it's just that was interesting to me too. Yeah, that was really cool.
What I'm saying, it's very clever. It's very clever.
Yeah,
it's very clever.
And just the fact that this, like, but just the fact that this started off with Alec Guinness, like footage of him on set, and sort of like giving his thoughts, and like, I just, you could tell that like Star Wars. The reason I love it so much, like, it's a sci-fi thing, right? You got lasers and you got spaceships and you got lightsabers, but it's so much more than just a sci-fi thing. Like, there's so many themes in here, whether it's connections to family, which was talked about in the documentary, or, you know, just the struggle between good and evil, and the you know, just the idea of holding on to hope even when you're facing insurmountable, you know, odds. And it's just, Star Wars is so much more than just a sci-fi show, and I felt like this documentary did a great job of showing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Frank, what do you think?
Yeah, no, because I mean, I can understand. I feel like people would feel the same way too about Marvel movies, like now as well too, where it's, you know, the genre, sure, little different, but I mean, what's great, as John was saying, was just like the themes, and I think that's what I think actors can lock into. Is it's just, it might be a more fantastical world, but if it's, you know, still family is family, no matter what. If it's a science fiction film, a cop drama, a period piece, you know, a horror film, you know, you can still find those common themes that I feel like, you know, actors could resonate with and lock into and perform in any of those types of films.
Yeah, it's funny. They say every story, they boil down to like 7 or 8 tropes, right? They said there's 7 or 8 things that, you know, anything from horror films to sci-fi, like literally. And I remember, of course, because we work in daytime, when Marlena was possessed by the devil on Days of Our Lives back in the day, she was possessed by the devil. Yes, it was. She levitated. Her eyes were yellow. You know, all the theatrics. But the point was, it was actually a love story. Her man had to save her. That was all the theatrics, all the extra stuff was there for entertainment, but the core of the story was a man who loved his woman and had to save her. So I feel like, same with Star Wars, same with Star Trek, and all these things, there's the humanity parts are in there that are just regular parts of a story, but dressed in different places.
Yeah.
You know, or there's spaceships, you know, it's a little different. But the stories are in there.
Yeah, like even like Dark Shadows. You know, you start off as a regular soap opera, and then all of a sudden you just start dropping in, you know, their crazy genre stuff in there, and it strikes a chord with the fans. But it's still about just we've all been there, a vampire that, you know, finds somebody that looks like the reincarnation of his long lost love. Who hasn't had that happen?
Hasn't been there. I mean, it's been a while for me, Frank, but I can relate.
I actually, last week it happened to me, so
see, you know, that's really easy. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. That's the point about when Sir Alec Guinness was saying, he pitched me a samurai warrior kind of story. He pitched me that like that. Well, that's basically what it says. I mean, that's what, you know, Star Wars is. Many things. It's family drama. It's space drama. It's little soapy in parts. Like it's action adventure. It's redemption. It's not redemption. It's, you know, it's like going to the dark side. You know, it's all these things.
And it's how many of us deal with our own, you know, internal struggles and our own internal battles, and like seeing somebody like Obi Wan, right? Like this legendary, iconic Jedi Knight, this hero who goes from being, you know, on the Jedi Council to being a completely broken man, to then finding his way back, you know, and you know, sort of just rebuilding himself out of the ashes. Just so many good themes that people can relate to. That's what you get from Star Wars, and it's relatable, but also so spectacular, and like it's Star Wars is the best.
So now the other thing they bring up that I thought was very interesting, actually, is that in a lot of Star Wars, Luke gets lots of attention, and not as much as Leia. And everybody expected this to be a Luke Obi-Wan adventure, and they flipped it and made it a Leia adventure, which that was one of the few things that did work for me in the series, due to the actions Vivian, the little girl, plays her. She sold it. She totally sold it. But they're right. I didn't expect the Leia story. We never even saw her in the trailers. I mean, there was nothing. I mean, it's like, you're right. They don't. I mean, Princess Leia, who, you know, they had her show up in Rogue One, of course, and a few other things. So I was like, it's very interesting. I mean, she is a really huge part of the Star Wars canon, right?
Oh, absolutely.
That's true. I don't know, because I feel like, John, you might be more dialed in, but I feel like I'm scrolling social media and stuff, and I'll see spoilers pop up for stuff, and I'm not, I don't mind spoilers at all, but I felt like for this, with the Leia revelation, I didn't see any kind of hint from anybody that that's the direction the series was going to go. So I was genuinely surprised when it happened.
I had this sneaking suspicion that we would see Leia in the series. Never imagined that it would be as much as we did. And it just felt like I don't know. To me, it felt like it was way more likely that the reason that, Obi-Wan would have to leave the planet, whatever adventure he would go on, would have to do with something to do with Leia. Because I felt like if something had happened with Luke on Tatooine, we would have known about it. You know what I mean? Like, it was just that kind of thing. It was like, there's got to be something that gets Obi-Wan, something that's important enough to drag him away from this planet where he has this mission of just watching over Luke for the rest of his life. Like, why would he leave the planet? And the only reason that I could think of that would be good enough is because something's going on with Leia. So I was hoping and I was thinking that we might see something with that, but I never thought that Leia would have been, one of the main characters of the whole series. So
he did, Frank. Yeah. I was completely shocked.
I thought stylistically, the way they did this documentary was interesting. Really relying on the use of the volume to be able to show scenes of them watching old clips or backdrops that they used in the series. The interesting touch of them just kind of walking alongside the kind of 3/4 pro view of them as they would just be kind of, walking down the volume, sharing their deep personal thoughts. Yeah, there were some nice touches, but I also felt I think we've all were kind of bummed in terms of the series, just in terms of what it was and what it turned out to be. So for one, I can understand, like, you really see watching this, just that, yes, they were filming this in COVID. Who knows, how that affected the actual production of it. But I also felt like, couldn't this documentary, we saw nothing that happened with Reva or Moses in social media and stuff. Any of that outlash. I mean, I felt like that's stuff that would have been interesting to see. Great for people to show, like, no, this is Star Wars. This is for everybody. This is be a great reminder for that. But I felt like we kind of just sidestepped any of that and just stayed to, like, oh no, this is great. This is all stuff. It's great. So I don't know. I think I could have used a little bit more substance, which is what I would have liked in the actual series as well.
Yeah, I agree.
We concur. We concur. Another thing that made me wish they had done, when they showed the Inquisitors and seeing how they talked about them and how big they didn't talk to the Asian guy. What was that about? Anyway,
no, that's true.
They didn't.
That is true.
He was so hot to try. Like, I'm from Fast and Furious. This is going to be great. This was just a blip. Like
a blip.
Yeah, for him as an actor, personally, I'm sure time of his life. But for any fan of his who enjoyed him, very disappointing, I'm sure.
Yeah. I agree. And they did. So I just want to say what we could talk about. They just literally they built them up in the documentary.
Yeah,
we all knew about this, and and having Moses in the documentary playing Reva, and how she's the very few women in the live action series that are on the dark side, so to speak. She's they built it so up. I'm like, but then they really didn't execute that well during the show. We barely saw the Inquisitors. Remember, we barely saw them.
Yeah.
So I was like, why wouldn't they showcase more? Why weren't? I mean, so anyway, so go.
No, it was funny to me because, like, they had this little segment with the Grand Inquisitor talking about him, and then they showed the fifth brother just like sort of off to the side, being like, then you have Fifth Brother, who's like the natural person to take over for the Grand Inquisitor. And then that was it. There was no mention of Fifth Brother. It's like, this is the guy who's supposed to take over the Grand Inquisitor. And that's, you had said one sentence about him. But there was, so what you were saying, James, about Reva, right? About how Deborah Chow is kind of saying, like, there are so few female characters that we've seen that are dark side users in live action. She specifically said live action. And it made me think to myself, what other female characters do we have that are on the dark side in Star Wars that we've seen in live action? Do you guys actually know? Because I couldn't think of any off the top of my head.
No.
Between the prequels, the original, the sequels, like, is Reva the only one?
I think so, because even in the 3, they're on the right side of.
Right.
Yeah,
like there are other female, dark side users, whether you want to say Asajj Ventress or, but that's animated. Deborah Chow, she specifically said there's not a ton of female characters in live action that use the dark side. So I was racking my brain trying to think, like, are there any at all? And I can't think of any others. So if anybody in the chat knows.
Yeah, anybody in chat?
But I agree, the way that Deborah Chow described her Reva story, her struggles going back between light and dark and becoming the thing. I felt like the show didn't successfully showcase that as well as it could have. That's like, I see what you guys wanted, but I just don't think, I feel like it was executed well.
Right. I agree. I totally agree. That's what made sense. Like, this looks I like, if this came out first, I'd be like, oh, this looks really good. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Disappointed when they were talking. I guess it goes back to the erratic. This episode's this long. This episode's that long. This episode's this long. They do that so much. It's like cute gimmick, but if you want to achieve the things you achieve, maybe we should go to if they're all 42 minutes or they're all like. I just feel like, come on.
Yeah.
Let's just like. There was stuff they talked about that didn't happen in the series. I'm sorry, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Just didn't. All those characters are interesting to me, and they just said, bring back, Beirut and Owen with Joel Edgerton, and then they came back after 20 years. That was nice seeing them too. But they're just pieces. They spent more time on them, and I'm going, but they're just pieces of a story. They weren't even that much. They're watching Luke. It's like, but I know the returnees, so they had to mention that. But and like Liam Neeson at the end, of course, they had to show him a little bit there too. But I'm like, that's, they all returned. I got it. But the ones who are on the show, you didn't even showcase them that much. Even the Rupert Friend character who played the Grand Inquisitor, you talk about him greatly, but we never saw. I think he talked off camera, kind of. He was like, but they didn't really talk to him.
Right.
Like,
to be honest, and I do think that Hayden Christensen did end up getting some good screen time. But did you notice that he didn't show, and he had some of my favorite moments from this documentary was watching him talk about how meaningful it was for him to step back into the role and put the costume back on after all these years. But did you notice that he didn't show up until halfway through the documentary? It was like, the documentary was an hour long. He showed up in like minute 27. And I was kind of like, that's interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah, he did. But I did feel the emotion between the two guys. That was, I did get a little teary-eyed when he said he saw him across the field. He waited for him. He didn't go home. And he called out Obi Wan. And then all of a sudden he looked at her, whatever.
Yes,
and then he hugged. I got a little tear in there. I know Frank's dead inside, but I got a little tear. A little bit.
That moment was big for me too. Yeah. Because Hayden Christensen has gotten, Obi-Wan, people didn't love the prequels, obviously, but I feel like Obi-Wan is probably, out of all those, characters, has probably come out the most unscathed.
Yes.
Hayden Christensen was like torn apart, I feel like.
He was.
So to see him come back now, and like, even after all the criticism that he did get, to still come back and step into the role and now be embraced by the fan base, and not see getting back into the costume or getting back into the role as like a negative thing, because it's like, I played this role for 3 movies in this huge global franchise that is known and loved worldwide, and people hated the way that I portrayed this character. the fact that he came back and wasn't like, oh, I don't know if I should be doing this, but he was like, no, this is really meaningful to me. And I've learned a lot. And I'm so excited to get a chance to wear this costume again and play this role again. Like, that was just awesome to see. Like I'm glad that it wasn't like the experience that he had after making the prequel movies. Like, it didn't sour him on the whole thing. It was like, no, I really loved being a part of this. And I wasn't received the way I wanted to in the beginning, but now people are starting to appreciate me, and now I get a chance to do it again and make it even better. That I really love to see that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, certainly filmmaking has gotten. I mean, the technological advances have improved. Even though George Lucas was somebody who was always looking to keep pushing that, but now that you've got the volume and stuff, I don't know. I read an article about, speaking of Andor, because I know we'll be doing that soon.
Yes,
but like with Tony Gilroy, but he was saying, because they did a lot more just location shooting than using the volume, and he was saying, while the volume is great, it's definitely a choice you got to make in terms of the production. Are you going to be a volume based show, or are you going to be a location based show? And they opted to go location based, and for me, I'm excited about that. I think just that alone is going to make for some really different ways of just a distinct visual look for that show that I feel like the Mandalorian as well as Obi-Wan haven't been able to give me, even though I appreciate what the volume can do for a production. I'm excited to see what Andor does.
I have to tell you, like, the Mandalorian has been received incredibly well. People love the Mandalorian. They love Grogu.
Yes.
My prediction is that Andor is going to rival the Mandalorian for the best Star Wars show. That's
I hope you are correct.
I have incredible. I could be totally wrong, and a month from now we'll be sitting here being like, "This show sucks." I'm totally willing to admit that I could be wrong. But
no, John, my Uber driver today was like, I can't wait. I hit a little R2D2 this thing. He's like, I can't wait for Andor. I saw the trailer. It looks really good. The latest trailer, blah, blah. And I said, this we call the Andor episode JLJ Media. Tune in later this month. I told him. He started laughing. So
I'm telling you, I think that Andor is going to be freaking awesome. I really do. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for it.
He's excited. But folks, we will be doing the Andor after show. It looks like it'll be the first episode comes out the 21st, the first 3 episodes. They're excited to chat, of course. We will not be doing it the 21st, but we'll be on a special night Friday. I can announce it here. The 23rd at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The 3 of us will be back talking about Andor, the first 3 episodes. Yes, everybody's like, yay, yay. So we will be back with that. And then we'll return to the regular Wednesdays, release an episode at a time. So they greenlit 2 seasons of this, so I guess we will find out how this first season goes. And
I mean, especially they're doing 12 episodes for the season.
I know.
I mean, I feel like they wouldn't be doing that if they didn't think
Frank,
it was good.
Frank, they put out 12 crappy episodes. That easily can happen on the show.
I will say, so they already said that this is supposed to be like 5 years before Rogue One.
Right.
And they also played. Did you see the Disney Plus Day little documentary they put out? Yeah. They included at the end of that the line that that Cassian Andor says in Rogue One, where he says, "We've all done terrible things for the rebellion." And this is a line that I remember from Rogue One that I'm like, this character said this line, and now they're making a show about him. We're gonna get to see all these awful things he's done.
Like the guy said in the Uber, we all loved Rogue One. So that's what makes me nervous. Because to me, it was an unexpected pleasure. I was like, little Star Wars stories. That's kind of a cute idea between the. I was like, that's cute, and that was the first one, and I really enjoyed it. Like I really enjoyed it, and it made sense in the canon. I was telling you, it was great. That's what makes me nervous. There have been bad seasons of shows.
Absolutely. Rogue One is better. Rogue One is better than any of the sequel. I agree. Sequel trilogy movies.
Oh, I totally agree.
But I feel like there are people that were involved in Rogue One that are involved in this series. I just have very high hopes. I think it's going to be great. I really do. I'm very excited, and I hope I'm not disappointed. But I'm really excited.
Let's let you and I have said our stuff. Let's see what Frank thinks.
No. I'm hopeful for Andor. I mean, I feel like I want to be hopeful for any new series that comes out, for sure. Yeah, I just feel like certainly Mandalorian first two seasons were great. Book of Boba Fett, I struggled with on some stuff, and now I'm allergic to talking about that show. It's made me sneeze.
God bless you.
That's right. And Obi-Wan, Obi-Wan. As much I was so excited and so underwhelmed.
Yes.
But I feel like I put that on a pedestal for show. So my disappointment I had a long way to drop. Andor, I mean, I don't have that same attachment to Caspian as I do Obi-Wan. So while I'm excited about it, I mean, I don't, if it's not a great series, I'm not going to be like crushed by it. I'll be like, all right. Okay. So yeah. The other thing watching this documentary though too is it felt like they really wanted to show like how Obi-Wan changed from how we got him from the prequel trilogy to A New Hope. And the other part of me that guys, I think maybe this is all like it was like Obi-Wan's crazy weekend. And he went, it's like, yeah, and then all of a sudden now I'm totally different. And I wonder if
so this is Star Wars version. It's like Weekend at Obi's.
Yes.
Weekend at Bernie's.
I thought about Frank because when they were talking about, and this is where Darth Vader was stronger than him. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, that's the problem. That was the whole problem, was like, we kept having encounter him, and it was just like, Darth Vader kept getting away, and things kept happening. It's like, that part wasn't really that great in the series.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like they were kind of handcuffed by the idea of like, this is a Leia Obi-Wan kind of a duo movie. But I almost kind of wish that get her back and like lengthen I would like to see this series stretch over years in terms of able to just jump time so we can see, kind of like Obi-Wan when he's injured after that first fight with Darth Vader, they were seeing him take time to like heal. For this, it was just always just rush. And I'm like, how did he become like his reawakening of the Force just seems so unearned and so rushed to me in the series that if they would have just lengthened the kind of the time the story was covering, I think I could have bought that arc that they wanted to have Obi-Wan hit.
I totally agree. And as much as I loved Vivian Lyra Blair playing the young Leia, when after the first episode, I was hoping that she was going to be returned to Alderaan within the second or third episode, and now we were going to get to see Obi-Wan on his own. Let's get back into the Force using that and build my powers back up, and let's go fight Vader, as much as I loved seeing little Leia being a part of the whole series, it was like, I could have done with like 3 episodes of this story of Obi-Wan and Leia. And now the last 3 episodes, the second half of the series, let's just focus on Obi-Wan and Vader, and Obi-Wan trying to get his strength back and his power in the Force. But
also there's another story that we weren't fully getting. That was the Inquisitor story.
Yes.
Yeah. The 3 Inquisitors, they always had their own kind of story too. We weren't getting that either.
Yeah, which is disappointing. It's because I love the Inquisitors. I think the Inquisitors they're such a cool part of the Star Wars universe. And I felt like they were used very poorly in this series. Like it was like it diminished them to me. I always thought of the Inquisitors as like these very cool, sect of Star Wars that Darth Vader is the commander of, and like will literally torture. He'll cut off their hands if they disobey him. He'll do all these things, but they're like, the Inquisitors are so cool to me, but they were not used very well in the series. I felt like they were diminished. The 5th brother was like non-existent, even in the documentary tonight that we watched, it was, he was the natural heir to the Grand Inquisitor. It was like the 5th brother was, Reva could have flicked him away in the wind. Yeah. You know what I mean? It was like, I don't know.
Well, especially I would have loved, for me personally, and maybe it wouldn't have been interesting for everybody else, but the fact that they ended up killing Rupert Friend, or supposedly the Grand Inquisitor.
2 stomachs.
Yes. But it's just like, why did they choose to make that when they know that everybody knows that he's still alive in Clone Wars? If you're a Star Wars fan, that it's like, well, why did you make that choice? I would have loved to have heard the storyline reasons, the choices they made for that particular reason.
It makes me feel like they were making this more for Star Wars fans that are not familiar with all that stuff. You know what I mean? It was like, they wanted to include the Inquisitors, which are a cool part of Star Wars, but not actually fill in that part of the story. It's like everybody that watches the animated series will know that, of course, the Grand Inquisitor is not going to die, because if you follow the timeline, he's not dead yet at this point, So like, but anybody that hasn't watched the animated series, which I think is a lot of Star Wars fans, actually, that would be a huge, surprise to them, that he was killed in the first place, and then now at the end of the series he's back to life. It's I just wish I don't know, I do not like, that's probably one of my least favorite parts of this Obi-Wan series, is how the Inquisitors were handled. I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, the fans want to know more with the Inquisitors too. I know. I think especially with I almost said Moses, that's her real name. With Reva, there were some things they hinted at stuff, but it could have been explored a little deeper, so that when she had the big fight with Vader, maybe it could have meant more. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like there were things missing for me. There's just things missing for me. She was a great character, and there were things missing for me.
Yeah.
I also, Deborah Chow was saying like, oh, and the character of Reva has grown on me more and more. It did in the middle of the season. I wasn't a huge fan of Reva in the beginning of the series, and then towards the end I started to like Reva more and more. But Deborah Chow in this documentary kind of said like, oh, we needed this character that was capable of going toe to toe with Darth Vader, but it's like that didn't happen. Darth Vader didn't even use his lightsaber. Reva tried to strike him down, and Darth Vader was like, nope. It was like that. It wasn't even like the epic battle that you're talking about in the documentary. There was no, it would have been awesome to see two red lightsabers, Darth Vader and Reva, dueling against each other. That would have been better. But like, Vader never even took his saber out. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, so like, as much as I started to grow on, Reva started to grow on me, I still feel like we didn't really do justice for her. Like, it was kind of like, her big battle with Vader was like not even a lightsaber battle. It was just him force deflecting her lightsaber, and then him, bringing out the Grand Inquisitor to stab her. Like,
but she still had enough to get back to Tatooine.
That's right.
She didn't want to kill Luke Skywalker.
That's right.
I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna kill this boy. I have no attachment to it all.
Yeah.
That's what's so far with this documentary. It just felt like if they had accomplished everything they said in this documentary, it'd be a different story. I feel like they didn't accomplish everything. Some things are great. They put a production together during COVID. Get points for that. But I was just like, there were some things that didn't really happen, and I just think it made it more glaring a little bit, because it was like it didn't happen. There's something just didn't happen.
I will say I'm disappointed that they showed us no footage of them filming that chase in the first episode of those guys chasing Leia through the forest.
Yes.
And the one guy just getting, just bumped by that chest level limb of a tree. How do I catch this girl? Oh,
they weren't important enough, Frank.
Were you upset that Flea wasn't in the documentary?
I know.
Yes. I mean, where was he?
Yeah, like not one quote from Flea, really?
Yeah, we had Ice Cube Jr. That was enough. We had music royalty adjacent as actors. I know I like the documentary was easy to watch. It was nice. Like I said, everything they did there were some emotional elements. There was some good stuff, but overall, it didn't fulfill the promise of what the show could have been. The show, we all agree we liked it on some level. We liked it. It wasn't horrific or horrible. I heard some noise outside. I'm like, oh my god! So I mean, I think overall, I'm glad I watched it. Actually, it was kind of cool to watch it and see what's going on. But I don't know. Yeah. Any last little thoughts? I mean, I feel like we talked more about it than we should have.
Go ahead, John.
No, sorry. I was more excited about Obi-Wan after watching the documentary that came out after the show aired than I was before the show actually happened.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, if this documentary came out and I watched it, I'd be like, oh my god. If this came out before the show aired, I'd be like, right. Oh my god, I can't wait for Obi-Wan.
Oh, right.
I can't wait. But
yeah, I agree.
I mean, I feel like the best thing that the Obi-Wan series did was that episode that first introduced the meeting of Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. That first time he's going through the village and he's just being cruel and just like, this is just Vader, and that's why he's so scary. I thought that was the highlight of that series. I mean, you watch the last episode for a fun battle, and that's just like the kid in you, like, I just want to see these two fighting with lightsabers. But the meat of it, I thought, was that first connection between the two of them.
I agree. That was a good thing. He snapped that person's neck, just snapped it.
Yeah,
walking.
Now they also showed at the end too, which I thought was just kind of why they decided to do it as a mid-credits thing, was a little bit about Star Wars Celebration and showing this footage for the fans.
Yeah.
When I just, I don't know, as somebody I do love the genre stuff. I love comics. I love all this. I have never, and I guess as James said, I'm dead inside. I know that, but I've never been at any sort of gathering, and I've ever wept to see any actor who's portrayed a character that I've really enjoyed. And maybe that's a failing on my part.
Absolutely. Well, I have, because when I met Christian Alfonso 2 years ago, I did cry.
Well, that's great.
It was 38 years of this character I love. No, I mean, I say because I'm just saying, it's like it's funny because we're in the business too, also. So we see things a little different when it comes to actors and shit. Like we just know whatever. But I didn't expect how I was going to feel when she walked through the door and like, Christian Alfonso said. I looked at her, she kind of like glided up the stairs. Like she wasn't walking on her feet. She just glided up there. Like I was like, I couldn't breathe. Tammy's like, calm down, James. Calm down. Like, okay. I think I saw hyperventilating, Frank. So I don't get starstruck very easily around people because we meet stars all the time for our jobs and stuff. But that I will say that is one time where I fangirled out so hard. And when she said, James, finally, I fell into her arms. It was like, I wept. And I was like, I turned to that person. I turned to that Frank. I turned into a Trekkie. I turned into a Trekkie. Exactly. You see that documentary, folks. It's crazy. But no, I really, no, but you're right. I rarely do that. There's nobody else. And there's nobody else I think I would do that with. I don't know. But with her, for some reason, it hit me a certain way.
Interesting.
It is.
But not Peter Reckle. But not Peter Reckle? Didn't care about Bo.
No. only hope. But seriously, there's nobody out there like in anything that you just said this, or is there anything you really like that? Like anything where you were like be super starstruck?
I had a chance to meet Lee Majors.
And, Lee Majors. That's right. Yeah. Okay.
But so as much as I love Lee Majors,
right.
I didn't cry. Okay.
But
I mean, I was super. I mean, I was super excited, but also working. So just trying to keep that in check.
Yeah.
Still, but I never at any time did I feel like I got to fight the tears. I can't cry. I'm at work.
That's hilarious. Okay, I forgot Lee Majors. Anybody for you, John? Anybody you just died to meet that you just like? I mean, not all the chicks on all these shows. We get that part, but like as a star or anything. Oh, John has crushed on everybody. He has crushed on everybody.
No, I mean, I honestly, I don't really get starstruck very often.
Yeah,
I've been lucky enough to work in a business where I see celebrities very often.
Yes.
And interact with them very often, working in sports and entertainment in different arenas and stuff. So it's just been a part of my job for several years. So it's kind of like I know how to talk to people just on a down to earth basis. So
he's fancy. Yeah. No,
although I will say if I saw Liam Neeson, I would definitely call him Qui-Gon and ask him to be my master.
I'd pay to see that, actually. I would pay to see that. Yes. Well, I guess I'm not dead inside, folks. I cry too. I will cry.
I will say though, overall though, because I know Star Wars, like any fandom, they're very fans love these characters, these stories, no matter what fandom it is, and they're really invested, and they want to see stories that they love on screen, and when they feel like they aren't getting it, they get so angry, and they'll just like really start laying into the people making whatever that might be, whether it's a film or a TV show.
Yeah.
I think watching this though, it shows that the people who are also making this are also fans, and they're not setting out to make a terrible product.
No.
I mean, how it comes out in the end may not be as successful as they wanted it to be, but that by no means means that they're deliberately trying to ruin Star Wars for any fans.
Yeah,
I agree. No, I mean, I said everybody was really into it. Like I said, I felt the earnest. I said at the beginning of the show, it felt very earnest. It really did feel like they were going in to take this important character and give it its due. And I feel like Boba Fett too, on some level, they really wanted to do that also in the beginning. It got lost somehow, but I feel like in the beginning, they really had a handle kind of like how they wanted to bring him, fill in that gap. Yeah. And then somehow.
That's true. I mean, it's tough. I mean,
does it make you, yeah.
Does
it make you feel like they have like a general idea for what they want to do with certain characters, but they just don't know how to finish it? You know what I mean? It's like, we want to do a show about Boba Fett because people love Boba Fett. So let's make a show about him. And like, we kind of know what we want to do with it, but we don't know how we want it to end. But let's just do it anyway because people love Boba Fett.
Right.
The same thing with Obi Wan. Like, there's a part of me that like really feels like, not that they ruined Obi Wan, but like Obi Wan is this legendary. We heard in the documentary. Obi Wan is this legendary, iconic figure, this character. And like, if you're going to make a series focused around Obi Wan and what was happening between the prequels and the sequels, we should be getting an epic story that everybody agrees on and loves. And I feel like we got this story of Obi Wan where it's like, this is it now. And there are certain things we might have liked about it, but there's a lot of things we maybe didn't like. But they can't really go back and redo it now. So this is just Obi-Wan's story now. Like
that. Yeah, because it's like with the Mandalorian, maybe Jon Favreau has like, if I could do like 3 seasons, I got like a 3-season arc in mind, or 4 seasons. But with Obi-Wan, you're right. You don't like Ewan McGregor. Do you know going ahead that you can't get him for a 2nd season? So if you're only getting him for 6 episodes, do you want to just cram as much as you can into that,
right,
and sacrifice a better story that could have been paced out over 2 seasons,
right,
to just sacrifice it because you're like, we're only going to get 6 with them, but we got to just do it,
right? Because we all watched the Obi-Wan season, and we were all, I think, underwhelmed, even if we did like certain things about it.
Right.
But it's like, now this is what Disney came up with, so this is just part of Obi-Wan's story now. There's nothing we can do about it. Like, there are fan stories or theories that we read about that we probably liked more, but this is what Disney put out. And, Deborah Chow is very talented. Clearly, Ewan McGregor was on board with this. Hayden Christensen was on board with this. They were all cool with it. But, like, a lot of the fans that love this franchise, that are fans of both the original trilogy and now the prequel trilogy, like, they had certain expectations and certain hopes for what this Obi Wan Kenobi series would be. It came out. I think for a lot of people, it didn't meet those expectations, but like, there's nothing we can do about it. This is what Obi-Wan was doing between the prequels and the sequels. That's it. But there's nothing we can do about it. This is what we got. This is the story of Obi Wan Kenobi. It's like kind of like,
yeah, no, that's true. Because it's like, now this area, it's, for as much as like you may have an awesome idea, it's like, well, that area is kind of now closed off, so I really can't. I can't pick my Obi-Wan story now because it's kind of closed off now.
Unless Lucasfilm and Disney want to decanonize this whole series and do it over, which feels like a lot of work. But
because it feels, I would think that Disney would have thought they would have known, they would have had, this would have been a successful series at the outset. But for them, they're like, well, we knew we had 1 season. So we never, that's all we ever really thought about.
Right.
It's a shame if they would have, thought like, well, yeah, maybe we could get 2 seasons out of this.
Yeah.
What could have been.
Yeah.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda, but they didn't.
Yes.
Folks, that was your Obi Wan Kenobi documentary, A Jedi's Return.
Wait, we're done?
We are done.
I'm just getting started.
Nothing left to say, Frank. We're done. We're done, Frank. We're done. I'm done. We're done. I want to take my bra off. I'm gonna get some ice cream and lay down on my bed and watch some TV.
There wasn't enough Zach Braff in this documentary.
It was kind of funny seeing him do the thing, Ben.
Yeah, actually, I'm so glad you said this because that little segment. I'm sorry, James. I know you want to leave, but I'm sorry. That little segment with all the aliens and the weird creatures and seeing how their faces moved and everything, and the fact that they like picked the alien with a ton of eyes to be like the shoplifter, security guard. Oh my god, I love that segment. I love that.
Right, that's something that was good. And seeing Zach Braff do the whole and they were moving it was very cool.
Yeah, that was awesome.
When they sit on the ship, the little kids look at the monster, the little tentacle tendrils.
Yes.
Them. Yeah. And I said I love what I said earlier in the show. I kind of mentioned, nobody talked about it with me, but I kind of mentioned it. But I like that part.
Yeah. That was a great moment.
James, we're gonna talk about it now with you, James.
But I don't want to. No, I'm done.
So for the next hour, we would love to discuss this with you.
Remember, I have the controls. I'm like, just goodbye, everybody, and that's it. Let's end the show. No, I did like that. I did like that part. That was kind of cool. I love them behind the scenes. Like I said, I love the imposing of the screens and the taking them away. But it looks very real. I know that a lot of the Star Wars series are using cutting edge technology actually for an immersive experience. We talked about it a little bit on, I think it was Mandalorian. Me and Ryan talked about it, how they were doing, how literally it's like a relief map. They have stuff, they have all this stuff now where you're literally almost like you're on the set of a real desert or whatever. They're using some cutting edge stuff. So that's very cool. That was very cool.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and now I'm done. Now we're done. That's it. Enjoy my ice cream. Yeah, thank you. Leopard said she screamed when she saw Steve Burton in person.
Oh, but did she cry?
Did you cry, Leopardess? Said you screamed. Also, Boba Fett was boring. Okay. Love Grogu. I play Star Wars with my grandson. He had Luke's and my husband's Count Dooku's lightsaber. I have a Mace Windu purple lightsaber. I had it for 10 years.
Nice.
Yeah, I know that's nice.
I love
Thanks so much. Andor. It's all the comments. Everybody, thank you for the likes in the chat. Thank you so much. We have 10 likes and 9 people watching. Thank you so much. You for all the listeners who make this show a hit every week for me, which is crazy. Yes, they're still listening to this after show. Thank you for giving us a piece of the Star Wars podcast pie. It's been very successful for us, Frank. Very successful, John. Very successful. And Obi Wan Kenobi After Show is picked up by Star Wars Online as one of the top podcasts to listen to. So that was this week. That was this week. So
that's incredible.
I'll make that announcement on here.
That's fucking incredible.
I know.
Oh
I was just shocked. I was like, thank you. I'm like, thank you. So again, 3 dudes who nobody knows talking about Star Wars.
Well, in response to that, all I'll say is that I feel incredibly lucky to talk about Star Wars with you guys because I love you guys and Star Wars is one of my favorite things ever. And just the fact that I get to talk about it on a podcast, with you guys
you're a great addition. So thank you. You're a great addition to our show.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. This is what I look forward to, all the time. So
it keeps me and Frank, our relationship alive.
That's
we
right.
added a third. We added a third. Yes.
Sometimes you need to spice it up sometimes.
Yeah, a little bit, yes. And a homegirl says, I almost jumped on stage, Frank. She didn't cry. She almost jumped on stage.
For Steve Burton.
Steve Burton. That's right, Frank.
Yeah, man. Stone cold. You got to get him.
That's right. Beauty for Ashes. Am I going on IG? I have no idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to these gentlemen a little bit afterwards, and I'm going to go get my ice cream, and then I'm going to lay in the corner and eat my hair. That's what I'm going to do. I don't want to do later. I don't want to do later after that.
Hello.
Exactly. But you guys, follow us on all audio streaming platform services, whatever platform you have. We are on there. Obi Wan Kenobi After Show. Listen to what we did. We did the whole series. We did a postmortem. Now this show. So we've done it. Please listen to it. Give us your thoughts. I mean, Frank will read them.
Yeah.
You know. But give us our thoughts. If you like Big Brother and the challenge, John Dunphy has a show for you. Tell him, John.
Yes. Currently, I have a podcast that's called it's called Jury Duty, a Big Brother podcast. On social media, if you want to find us on Twitter or Instagram, for the time being, you can find us at BB Jury Duty. We have some legal
issues.
There's some legal things going on, so our name may be changing soon. You know, due to things like trademark infringement. But anyway, follow me at jdun89 on Twitter or Instagram, and I will steer you in the right direction if you want anything to do with competitive reality TV shows or Star Wars or whatever. Follow me.
Or songs on a piano.
Yeah. You can also follow me for music. I also love to do that.
Yes. And Frank Moran and I do a show called She-Hulk with this guy over here, Anthony Chupazzi. We'll be back next Thursday with that show at 8 p.m. with a female guest again, bringing the females on, the guest host. Her name is Kim. She'll be on, so I'm talking to her. Also, we do JH Spring Spotlight. That's the other show. We're celebrating 7 years this month. Me and Frank, 7 years. One of my longest running shows ever. Will be later on this month. So we'll be back later this month. If you're a Cobra Kai fan, which came out today, me and Sean Kanan, my buddy, he makes a return in Cobra Kai season 5 as Mike Barnes after 35 years. So he and I will be talking about that this Sunday at 11 o'clock live, 10 o'clock live, his role on Cobra Kai, his crossover event with Bold and Beautiful and Wynar, Studio City, winning an Emmy, and just he's in his book Way of the Cobra. He is having a moment. So we're going to talk about all of that. And you can watch Cobra Kai on Netflix. And you can watch me on Studio City on Amazon Prime.
He's writing you into season 3, right, James?
Well, we talked about a spinoff once. I'd say it should be a spinoff of my character.
Oh.
And then there's Maud, and then there's Maud. About that. But we love you guys. Thank you very much. Oh yeah, thank you guys for the kind words. We enjoyed this. If there's any other Obi-Wan major things happening, I will bring it back to you guys. We'll be back on here. We'll talk about it. But in the meantime, enjoy yourselves. May the Force be with you.